your host, Zach Wilkerson. I'm with my friend and co-host, Ricky Coon. Ricky, what's going on, man?
Not too much, just enjoying a little vacation time. We've got some staff time off here till May 31st, so try and enjoy that. Um, just been kind of playing agent to my son. He's going to be a senior, so going through the recruiting process as a parent. So just been talking some ball and trying to get my son recruited, and that's about it.
Nice. Yeah, I imagine you guys are going to have a busy summer with camp coming up.
Yeah, I know it'll be life on the other side.
Uh,
So it's been interesting to say the least.
there you go. Awesome. Well, hopefully he gets to play for you. That'd be pretty sweet as well. And so,
Yeah, that'd be good. You never know how it might shake out. Just he needs to do what makes him happy, and if he's playing for us, great. If he's playing against us, then I'll just have to crush his face in like everybody else.
we'll see what he has to say about that one, huh?
Yeah.
But well, we'll get started. Hey, today's show, we got a good one for you today. Title of today's podcast is going to be "All Starts Up Front." You know, Coach Coon and I are both front seven guys, and so we'll be able to discuss kind of our philosophy on stopping the run and getting after the passer as well. But before we get started, let's talk about our sponsor that makes this thing possible with CoachPad. And so, are you a coach who still prints off stacks of papers and templates to do them by hand, or do you use a software to run them by? Uh, Use CoachPad. They save time and effort for your graduate assistants, for your coaches. CoachPad allows you to clearly display and see your scout cards outdoors in the bright sun. Has been a game changer for programs all across the country. And so a lot of people are using them. Um, you can even use them on game day to sync diagrams from the press box to the sideline. And so you guys can find a link below in the description for CoachPod. I highly recommend you guys checking those guys out. They do a great job and appreciate those guys for making this thing possible. And so, well, today's first topic, we're going to talk about stopping the run, and we'll touch on several subjects within that scope. But let's get it started. Ricky, what's your philosophy when it comes to stopping the run?
Well, first of all, for me personally, that's our number one goal as a defense is don't let them run it. I think at the end of the day, in my opinion, a team can throw for 500 yards on you and you can still win. But if they run for over 300, it's going to be hard to win. And the reason for that is because if they throw the ball, once they get the field shortened into the red zone, low red zone, and they can't run it, then they're going to kick field goals. And so I believe wholeheartedly that stopping the run is the most important part of defense, and I'm really excited to talk about it today.
Absolutely. When we talk about run fits, and especially with coaching staffs, everyone's going to use the different structure. Like we talked about last week, the different schemes that are out there. One of the best ways I've ever heard it explained for run fits is from Todd Orlando. Used to be the defensive coordinator at the University of Texas when we went down there, and it's talking about the Oklahoma drill. Everybody runs some version of the Oklahoma drill or has in the past. And if you look at offensive coaches, how they want that drill set up, they want a running back with an offensive lineman with a defensive lineman. And they want your defensive lineman to have to defeat a block, get off that block, and make the tackle in space. We call that zero count football. That is difficult. That's a difficult world to live in as a defense. And so, when you're talking about run fit, defensive guys, the way we prefer that drill set up is you have your ball carrier with an offensive defensive lineman, but then you also have a linebacker right behind the defensive lineman. And now all that guy has to do is fit up the running back and make the tackle. And we call that plus one football in our world. And so when you're talking about stopping the run and getting after it, as far as that goes, it's a whole lot easier to stop the run if you can play plus one football. And so that's a big
Yeah.
part of it for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about stopping the run, one word comes to mind, and it's discipline. And it's a deal where I tell our team all the time, a team can run the ball 30 times and we could be successful on 27 of those 30, but if the three are touchdowns, then that's 21 points. And so fitting the run and stopping the run is being disciplined over and over and over again. And if you're undisciplined, you're going to get beat in a hurry.
Absolutely.
And that's getting out leveraged. Keeping leverage on the football, setting hard edges. Uh, you know, being inside out when you're supposed to, being outside in when you're supposed to. All those little intricacies of being disciplined is part of stopping the run
No doubt.
for us.
And the big saying we use around here is there's two ways to get beat on defense. You lose leverage on the football, you get beat over the top. And so when it comes to run
No
game,
doubt.
leverage is king. And so,
Absolutely.
well,
Absolutely it is.
let's talk about this front structure. What structure do you prefer and why?
Yeah. Well, obviously we talked last week about there really is no one way to do it. For me, if you had asked me 10 years ago, I was a even front guy. Today I'm an odd front guy. So if you say, how are you going to stop the run? Then I'm going to say we're going to play our bare 3-4. And we're going to force you to run it on the perimeter. We're going to put three big people, and we're going to take on your five blockers. Our inside backers are going to be free to go make plays, and our outside backers are going to force it and feed the box, and it's just awful hard to run on. And so over the last 10 years, we've been in this 3-4 defense, and specifically the bare front, and it's just really, really difficult, and it makes teams play left-handed a little bit. It's kind of like option football for defense. It makes teams do things that they're not comfortable doing, and they have to have unique game plans for it. And so, if I had to choose a defense, that's the defense that I would choose.
Okay, awesome. And we're kind of on the other side of that. We base out of even front. We're going to play a 4-3. The one thing I'll say to anybody that are trying to figure out what scheme you want to play out of, that part's kind of irrelevant. The thing I would say is when you draw up a offensive formation, draw up the front structure that if you're to be in a dream and you can draw up whatever front structure you want with your front seven, draw that up, and then find a way to make it stay that way regardless of what the offense gets in and out of. you know, Keep that front seven the same and use your safeties as your adjusters to where offenses can't motion you out of that or formation you out of that structure. And so, for us, that's the reason we play a lot of Tampa 2 and cover 3. When a team motions or changes formations on us, we're able to get really, really good at a certain run fit that allows us to have success over time. And so I think that's really
Yeah.
important.
Well, so the very first unit meeting that we have on defense, I show them a puzzle. Okay, and I show them a puzzle, and I show them a puzzle with a piece missing. And so we talk about every single run play, we're putting together a puzzle. All right. And if you've ever put together a puzzle, you get the whole thing together and you're missing that one piece and your puzzle isn't complete. And so we talk about no holes in our puzzle. All right. And so every single run play, we've got to put the puzzle together perfectly. And if we don't, that's when the offense has success. And so that's an analogy that we use. I show them a picture of it, and we talk about the puzzle, and that's how we started.
Awesome. Well, one question I have for you, Ricky, is when you're creating your run fits, whether you're a box team or a spill team or whatever it may be, are you creating that by your front or by your coverage?
So obviously, it all has to work together, if that makes sense. For us, I think the first we start front and we go backwards. All right, and so here's how we're fitting it up front. What gaps may be left? That's where our secondary has to help. And for us in the cover four world, we do count on corners and safeties to make plays and to be gap fitters. All right. When teams add multiple tight ends, our safeties and our corners, they're in the run fit. And so in our quarters coverage, which is our base coverage, and so, but we're always going to start up front and work our way back, and try the best we can to keep those DBs in winnable situations. But we do personally count on those guys. When we recruit DBs, we say number one, they have to have ball skills. Number two, they have to be able to tackle. All right, and then they have to be able to obviously cover man to man. But if they can't tackle, they can't play for us.
Gotcha. And so, for us, it's a similar deal. It does start up front. We're going to change our linebacker fits based upon coverage. And what I mean by that is if we're going to be gaining a safety or a corner into the run fit as a +1 defender, meaning he just has to make the tackle, then we will spill the ball to that defender to make sure that ball gets bounced to a guy that just has to make play. Whereas if the offense has a guy that can block our force defender, then we're going to box the ball with our linebackers because now again we're going to be asking a guy to get off a block to make a play, which sometimes you're going to ask those guys to do, but again that's the offensive world that they want to live in, and so
Sure.
but
Yeah,
well,
absolutely. I think that's something for our scheme. We're able to keep it fairly consistent, and I think that helps our execution level stay high. Is we're not changing those rules a bunch per coverage. We just have to know who is the force guy, who is the spiller, all those kind of things.
right, absolutely. Well, this kind of goes to my next question. What are you looking for in your defensive line? Obviously, you guys are a 3-4 defense, and so for
Yeah.
your front seven, what kind of guys are you looking for you to be able to execute at a high level?
I want to be honest with you. This has changed even over the last few years. So when we first started the Bear Front thing, man, we had three big people. We had three 300 pounders, and it was great. They were hard to move, all those kind of things, and it served us well as offenses have continued to evolve. Like we talked about last week, we're always trying to find a way to get a little bit more athletic on defense, and so now I think the most important thing is that your defensive line room isn't all the same. All right. So when we're recruiting a class, we're going to try to take one big guy that's that big, heavy, physical guy. All right, we're going to try to take one guy that's kind of um, more athletic. He might be a little smaller, but he's going to be able to give you that pass rush and maybe that quickness that bigger person doesn't give you. And then we're going to have one that's kind of in between the two. All right, and so we're trying to get multiple body types in our room now instead of having a room with just big people. All right. I don't think you can have just big people and you can't just have small people. And so we want big people to play nose tackle. All right. We need big anchors in there at the zero technique. And then in our B gaps, we have a filled B gap guy. That guy's a little bit lighter. He's got a little bit more twitch. We can put him on the edge sometimes and do some things. And then our boundary side B gap guy is just kind of your typical three technique. For us in college, he's kind of that, he's that 280 plus type of guy. And we keep him to the boundary most of the time. And so we look for those different body types. With all of them, we look for strength. All right, if you're not strong, you can't play and you get injured. We look for twitch. When the ball snapped, it needs to look a certain way. All right, when you're recruiting a defensive lineman and the ball snapped, all right, if they have twitch or not. All right, and so we're looking for twitch. All right, and then I'm just looking for a guy that has a mentality and he plays hard and he's mean and he's physical. I don't care about fundamentals. I can fix all of those. So a guy that's twitchy, a guy that's mean, and has that mentality.
Gotcha. Yep. And so yeah, similar with us. We're going to try to sign a bunch of guys with size. Size is going to be very important for us. We like guys that are strong, that can sit there and, we two gap a lot. So we like guys that can sit there and control those blocks. And so for us, with a four down, even front, our nose tackle is going to be a bigger guy. It's going to be a 300 plus defender for us. Our tackle, which is a lot of times can be a three technique for us. He's still going to be a heavier body. He might be a 280 pounder, but he's going to be 280 plus. This year, we're going to be close to 300 at both those spots. And then at our defensive end spots, We're going to recruit big guys, and we're also going to recruit guys that can pass rush as well. And so, right now going into it, our DNs are about 275 going into the season. But then we have some lighter guys too that are closer to 230, 240. And we're going to have roles for all those guys. Our base defense, when we're trying to stop the run, we're going to have a lot of weight in there. We're going to be big across the board and ask those guys to do some things that some teams might not ask those of them. And then on passing scenarios, we're going to get into our rabbits package, and we're going to put lighter guys on the field to get after the quarterback. So we do that to try to create more roles for our guys that can play, and we're going to play at depth and try to get after offenses that way.
Well, that's why I talked about, those different body types are important because there's different
That's
scenarios,
right.
right? Like every play isn't 3rd and 1. And so you don't need 900 pounds in there all the time. And so that's something that we've learned through the years. And when we had it that way, it wasn't bad. We just felt like getting some more athletes in the unit was going to help us, and it certainly did.
Okay, well, let's go to the next one, talking about single gap or two gap, and which one do you prefer, and kind of talk about that aspect of run fits.
Yeah, so we're a little bit of both. We have both uh, fundamentals that we use. We are a one gap defense essentially. Even though we're a 3-4, we are a one gap defense. Our nose, we don't two gap our nose or anything. He just tees off, and the linebackers make him right. And so, but we do some things where we'll, like you guys do, I think we'll play a 5 technique and two gap it into the B gap sometimes, and so we do have that skill set in there, but we are mostly a one gap defense.
Gotcha. And so, what advantages to being a single gap team do you think that exist?
I think the biggest one is there's no doubt where you're supposed to be. I think when you're two gapping, and you start playing peekaboo and doing those things, you can get in trouble in a hurry. All right. When you have one gap, you know exactly who's supposed to be there, where he's supposed to be as a coach, and they know who's supposed to be there as a player. And so when something happens, you know exactly what happened as a coach and how to fix it, and a player knows when he's wrong.
Gotcha.
And so I just think from an execution standpoint, it certainly
Right.
helps you.
Yeah.
And so and here's the deal: we're a one gap defense, but we still have two gap techniques versus different blocks. Like if a guard's going to stretch us in the B gap, we're not going to turn and run to the sideline. We're going to play vertical, and we're going to two gap that guy. But we're still essentially playing one gap football. So we have some of those. Again, we have some of those fundamentals built in, but we're still a one gap
Gotcha.
defense.
And so, for us, we're going to base out of two gapping. At the bare minimum, we'll have fronts where we two gap our ends, and then we'll have fronts where we two gap all four of our defensive linemen. And so, for us, it's that's the reason why we try to recruit the size. And now, when I say two gapping, some people have in their mind two gapping is I'm going to take on this lineman and I'm going to play both gaps because I'm just better than him. For us, that's not really how it is. It's really two gappings to be based upon blocking scheme on how you play different blocks. So whether it's an outside zone block, or reach block, or down block, or a base block, and we're going to play gaps based upon what we see. And so, that kind of leads into the next one. Are you more of a read and react type team, or are you going to be an attack and read on the run type?
So we're in between. I would say we are not by any means. We're not going to sit on the line and play soft. We're also not going to just run up the field blindly, and we're not gonna, as the old adage say, stop the run on the way to the quarterback. We're not quite that extreme either. I would say we're in between. We talk about getting knockbacks and resetting the line of scrimmage, but at the same time, we're reading blocks and trying to play those appropriately. And so I always say we're kind of a hybrid. So we're not one extreme or the other.
Gotcha. And so, me and you are really similar at one time on that. We used to do a lot of that same stuff. We've kind of switched a little bit to more of a attack and react team, just with trying to get our guys to get off the ball. try to create more of knockback and let those guys be a lot more aggressive with their ball get off. And so we've kind of changed the last few years as far as trying to let our guys be more aggressive as getting up the field than we have in the past. And so, it just goes to show there's not one way to skin a cat. Football's always evolving, and sometimes you find ways that validate what you're doing, and sometimes you find things that uh, make you think about change and doing other things as well. And so,
Yeah, if you watched us play, you would probably say, "Hey, they're an attack react
gotcha,
defense." Because we are pressing the line of scrimmage and we're getting vertical, but we are not. There's some groups out there, and they don't care. They're just like, "Hey, stop the run on the way to the quarterback." So they're pass rush moving and all kinds of stuff. So we're not doing those things. We're getting hands on and we're playing blocks and different things, but we do want to do it on their side of the line of scrimmage, and so we are more attack than we are react. But that's why I call it kind of a hybrid.
gotcha.
If that makes
Well, let's
sense.
talk about the different ways of stopping the run. Do you prefer playing base defense to stop the run? Do you prefer stunning to stop the run, or you like pressures to stop the run?
I think this is somewhere I'm growing a litwill bit. This will be my 21st year coaching college football. I'm still growing. When I first started my career, I was a chaos theory guy. I wasn't ever going to make the same call twice in a row. We were going to be in different fronts, or I'm going to be bringing somebody different. We were doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and it worked a lot, But when it didn't work, we were giving up a big play, and so then I kind of graduated into more of a base philosophy, and I said we're going to line up and we're going to play base football. So we are, so we're not putting ourselves in bad situations. And then over the last, whatever it is, 3 to 4 years, I said, you know what, we're not getting enough negative yardage plays on first and second down. And so we have gotten more aggressive and we've gotten into some more run pressures and different things. Running a guy down the hill line and bringing a guy to the quarterback, or just different movements and things. And so I would say we have a really good mix. We love to play base football, and we feel like when we're playing our base football, that's as good as anything. But we do have to try to get people behind the chains on first down, and so we have become, I would say, a lot more aggressive the last few
Gotcha.
seasons.
I think there's got to be a natural balance in there. In this day of age, if you do one thing, offense is going to catch up on it, and they're going to be able to find ways to attack it. So I do think you have to have balance. For us, we are going to have a base defense that we're going to hang our hat on. That's going to be our identity. Hey, guys, this is who we are. But we're going to utilize stunts and pressures as ways to, like you said, create chaos. But a lot of those are going to be educated guesses. This can come through game planning. We're not going to blitz the blitz and we're not going to stunt the stunt. When we're doing those things, we're doing it for a reason. Whether it's stunting a defensive end into the B gap to try to cancel off inside zone, or whether it's bringing pressure from the edge to overload to try to get plus one numbers in the run game when you know where the ball's going to be going. So for us, a lot of it's going to be coming down to game plan. And when we know based on tendencies what the offense is going to get, because there's going to be times when the game when hey, they're running power right here. It's a high possibility of power. Well, you need to have a power blitz that you can run to be able to stop power. Or they're going to run the quarterback here, whether it's a counter read or power read or whatever it may be. And you need to find ways to be able to create chaos in the backfield to try and get a tackle for loss on that guy. And so that's where we're going to utilize our pressures and stunts more often is when we have an educated guess on what we're going to see and how we can attack it.
So there's two ways that I've kind of that had a lot of success with recently. Is number one, when you're playing a team, they're doing a lot of stuff in the backfield, right? There's a lot of meshing and there's a lot of different, there's a lot of noise back there, whether it's jet sweeps, whatever it is. So we're playing teams that are going to do a lot of that stuff. We're going to bring it to force them to make a decision quick, and also if they don't make the right decision, we're going to TFL them in a hurry. And so people that do a lot in the backfield, we're going to bring it on them. And then the second thing is, you're right, you've got to game plan different things. I've started game planning people a lot. If I find a weak link in the offensive line, I'm going to stress that person and make him pick up some stuff and try to expose that person that we think is the weak link or weak links.
I'm glad you brought that point up because that's going to lead us to our next topic is getting after the quarterback. And, you know, how do you switch that mindset to getting after the quarterback and kind of what your philosophy is as of attacking offenses today?
Yeah, well, like it's just like in the run game, we're gonna attack those guys, but same thing in the pass game. It's all game plan. Obviously, you always want to game plan protections, uh, but I think, you know, the number one place that you start with getting after the quarterback is with the quarterback, right? Like, what kind of quarterback is he? All right. You can't make a plan if you don't know what kind of quarterback you're facing. And so on Mondays, when we do our defensive staff presentations, we got a guy that just presents on the quarterback, and he learns everything he can learn about the quarterback. He learns what kind of quarterback he is, what does he like to do, what does he not like, what has been effective against him, all those things. And so until you get to know the quarterback, I don't think you can create a good rush plan. And so, if he's a scrambler, we want to try to keep him in the pocket. If he's a pocket guy, we want to get him out of the pocket and get him uncomfortable. If he's a short guy, we want to keep him swarmed so he can't see. Just again, it depends on who you're playing. So it all starts with the quarterback, and then we go to the protections, and then we go to who's the weak links, and that way. Then it goes, can we cover the receivers? If we think we can cover the receivers, we can be a little more aggressive in some things, man-wise. So that just kind of that's our progression with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, the hit chart thing is important. One thing we've started doing several years back is we have a chart on how successful the quarterback is in different areas. If he's in the pocket, how's he throw the football compared to when he's out of the pocket on the left side or the right side. And, if we get a quarterback that does not throw very many completions when he's outside the pocket, then we're going to do things on the D line to force his hand to escape those ways to try to force him to make throws that he hasn't had success throwing. And the same thing if he's the guy that struggles with staying in the pocket. Some guys want to get out of the pocket and feel comfortable out there. We'll structure the game plan around that as well. But I think for us, a big part of it's going to be pass protections. We're going to break down pass protections. I think that's really important. A lot of times, offenses are going to tip their hand on pass protections. Most teams are going to be a half slide, half man type offense. That's a very common pass protection you're going to see. A big question you want to ask yourself when you're breaking down film is how often do they change the man side from the zone side? Meaning, is the running back side always the man side or a high percentage, or do they flash fake him across and change it up often? And if so, when do they do that? And that's probably the easiest way I would say to attack offenses as far as pass protection goes. And then another way is can we present the front in a way to create big on big opportunities? If we give a five man presentation, are we going to get big on big across the board? Or are we going to continue to get half slide, half man? And if we present six guys on the line of scrimmage, are we going to get full slide, or are they going to stay with the half slide and force the running back to block an A gap defender? And so, those are the ways that we're going to break down and get that through, hopefully through film study, and be able to create a game plan off of that.
I have something I'm gonna bring up, and I don't. You may agree, you may disagree. It might be an argument. I don't know, but I believe that coaches spend too much time trying to figure out protections and trying to find out how to get like a free guy. How can we get a free guy and how can we do all this? And at the end of the day, it's about creating as many one-on-one matchups as you can, and you have to win them. And so I think coaches a lot of times, how can we come free here? Well, how can I get my guy ready to beat this guy one-on-one? Because if you can win one-on-one matchups, all right, you're going to be really successful. And so I just really think that, and we work on protections, and we work on can we attack these protections. But sometimes I just say, guys, we need to move on from this. At the end of the day, we're going to put our players in position to win a one-on-one matchup, and it's their job to win. And if they're not winning, we need to coach them better or replace them. And so just through the years, I just feel like sometimes we even I catch ourselves even spending a little bit too much time trying to figure all that stuff out
Nope,
personally.
and you hit the nail on the head when you talk about trying to win the one-on-one matchups. And so for us, when we're using the game plan of protections, what we're trying to figure out is where the man side is and who's going to have those one-on-ones and how can we get our guys before the ball snap to know who's going to have the one-on-one. Because that's half the battle up front is having a game plan as a D lineman and knowing, hey, I have a one-on-one and I've got to win this one-on-one. And, to that point also, when we talking about run fits earlier, when you're playing run fits, you're attacking, reacting, and doing those things, and you're going to be sound in the run. On passing downs, we might not be completely sound in the run defense. You mentioned earlier, stop the run on the way of the quarterback. That is our mindset on passing downs. If it's a passing opportunity, we're telling those guys, hey, go get the quarterback, and if they run the football, we'll react to it on the fly. And so, scenarios are going to dictate whether you're going to play the run sound or if you're trying to get to the quarterback. And so, base defense, you try to be good at both, but there's going to be scenarios where you've got to be all out on the run. There's going to be scenarios where you're going to be all out on the pass. And to do that, it allows you to create tackles for loss and win situations.
Yeah, you got to take chances. I think we're all been in those positions where we make a call, we're pretty sure it's going to be a pass, and boy, they run it and they get a
Yeah,
first down. You just got to good for them, and you got to move on. But you're right. You got to take those chances and make those educated decisions. And sometimes you're
yeah.
wrong.
Well, question for you here, Ricky, is there certain fronts that you prefer on passing downs compared to run downs?
So I think we're not really anymore. We're not into the exotic front things necessarily. What we've kind of gotten into is, can we take three different front looks and do the same thing with them? Can we get these different presentations, but we're doing the same stuff? Whether it's a blitz pattern or whatever it is, a twist game, what have you. But how can we give them a different presentation so it looks different, but we're doing the same thing so our guys can execute it at a high level with good
Gotcha.
technique. So that's kind of what we've started to get to a little bit. But obviously you always want to get guys on edges and try to do it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what you said right there is get guys on edges. That's one thing we try to do. We like to get to what we call a 33 front where we get two, basically four eye D linemen in the B gaps and two ghost nine defensive ends to try and put pressure on that center of where he's going to go and how they're going to try and block it. And then a lot of times, when teams see that, quarterback draw and regular draw is a big play for them. And so for us, you got to have line stunts involved to try to cancel out gaps as far as that goes. But try to get guys on the edge to where they're not having to go through the guy, they're going around the guy, um, and try to find ways to suffocate the pocket on the quarterback.
You have to, in my opinion, uh, rushing the passer is like playing an offensive line. You have to be on the same page with
That's
your
right.
partners. All right, because if I'm a five technique and I'm rushing and I see the three technique below vertical past me, well, I don't want to keep going. I want to work my way back in because I got to understand what that quarterback is going to do. Where are the escape paths, right? If I'm a three technique and I see that five technique flash across my face, I don't want to stay inside. I want to work my way outside. Those are things that we call naturals, natural games. And so I think a good front rushing the quarterback works together. And so they got to communicate. So when we're doing line games, I want eye contact. I want verbal things. I want all the verbal, nonverbal communication. And so we've worked really hard about in practice trying to simulate being on the same page a lot like an offensive line would in blocking schemes. They're trying to pass off twist games and doing different things. Well, we have to be on the same page in our rush plan and understand when these things happen, these is how I react. And we have to understand pass rush lanes and different things like that. And I think that is what has helped us be better at rushing the quarterback.
Absolutely. If they all jet the field, the quarterback's going to find a gap and he's going to get vertical quick. And that drives coaches insane. That's where you go crazy and you're sort of thinking, man, what are we going to do? So that's a big part of it is understanding those pass rush lanes and figuring those guys out. For us, we like we're going to use power and we're going to use speed to power moves with our guys. We like those guys to be able to generate that force and then understand, where the partners are at. And I think that plays a role in it.
We still have problem. We're still working on guys understanding when we're moving and twisting and different things. We have to be balanced. We can't have three guys over here and one guy over here. Okay, and so we're still working on that. That's hard, because they see daylight and they want to go get it, but they have to understand what's going on around them. Like that's great. We want this guy to chase you, so our looper or whoever can do that. And so they have to be a little bit unselfish, and you have to work on it in
Well,
practice.
let's talk about the last little piece of this is um, rushing the passer. How much line stunts or pressures do you like and why?
Again, I think it's all game plan. If we're playing a team that I don't think have a very good front and we can win with just our pass rushers, then we're going to play coverage and rush the passer. You know, if we're in certain situations when we need a TFL, then we'll heat them up a little bit. And so again, I think it's about what is the situation, what is who are you playing? Can we get home with four? Can we drop eight and rush three? What is? Do they not pick up twists well? Do they not communicate well? Do we what kind of quarterback are you playing? Do you want to get the quarterback if the quarterback's not very good with progressions and you get a guy right at him, he's going to put his eyes down and try to take off. All those different things. So that all goes into our plans, and you have to be multiple with it, in my opinion.
I agree with that as well. A big part of us when we're using line stunts and pressures is our goal is to affect the quarterback. Obviously, everybody wants to sack the quarterback, but if we can get that quarterback to get his eyes off the receivers and look at the rush, we feel like we got him. And so that's gonna be a big part of it. My philosophy on pressure is I'm a low risk, high reward guy. I'm not a big, we're gonna bring more than you can handle and give you the one on one. We're going to try and force the offense to kind of go through a progression. So when we go through our pressure package, we kind of break them up in different categories. We have, are you rushing three? Are you rushing four? Four can be base football rushing four, or it can be a simulation pressure where you're bringing some guys, but you're also going to drop some guys out. And then we also have our 5-man pressures and we have our 6-man pressures. And so that's kind of how we categorize our pressure package. And then same thing with line stunts. Line stunts are more so going to be used to try to create overlap on the quarterback, to where we can have him feel like he has an escape route and then have somebody to fill that window. And it's also to pick on matchups. Like you said earlier, you're going to find a guy who struggles in space to build a block, and how can you attack that guy? Well, if we can find that guy, we're going to make that guy have to work at the protection. And so that's kind of how we categorize our structure. And again, it is going to come down to not only the scenario at hand, because every scenario is going to be treated differently. 3rd and 15 is going to be treated differently than 3rd and 7. And so and that's where the game plan's going to kick in and how we go into each week with what we're going to be doing.
Well, I think the other piece is who do you have
Right.
rushing? You need to get your best players involved in that. It can't just be, oh well, he's the Mike Backer, so he's blitzing here. No, no. Who's your best blitzer, and get him rushing the
Absolutely.
quarterback, right? Like if you're bringing a dud, you might as well not bring one. So it isn't just bringing pressure to bring pressure. It's about who can we match up versus them, and who for us are our best rushers and how can we get them rushing the quarterback is another thing that we look
Absolutely.
at.
And that kind of also goes into finding roles for different guys. Some guys are great at pass rushing and they're not so great in the run game. And vice versa. Some guys are great in the run game, but if you don't block them in the pass game, they might not make the play on a quarterback in space. And so creating roles for different players to get into the game plan and be able to go in and have success at what they're doing. And so,
I got a guy this year. He just transferred in as a true freshman at a lower level. He have college football. He had 16 sacks as a true
wow,
freshman. All right. In his first season, that's going to be his role. His role is going to be rushing the passer. Right. He's probably not going to be in there on first or second down a lot, but when it comes time to rush the passer, he's going to be in the game because he has that skill set, and eventually he'll graduate to first and second down stuff. But you're right. You got to have those role players and find out when you get to that scenario who can get home and get them in
absolutely.
there.
Well, Ricky, I appreciate you today, brother, man. We're going to kind of conclude this thing. Do you have anything else you want to say to everybody before we get this thing going?
Nope, I'm good. I'm good to
Awesome.
go.
Well, hey, guys, hey, if you like this podcast today, please hit the like button and the subscribe button below. That helps us keep this thing rolling. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram as well. It's at the Defensive Guys on YouTube and on Twitter. On Instagram, it's just Defensive Guys. And so I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you again to Coach Pat for making this thing possible. And we'll see you guys again next week.